Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. It's about 2 o'clock Central Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Spencer Matthews, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Next Branch. And today our education series is about navigating today's staffing challenges utilizing technology. And today's focus is really going to be on our first solution, which is migrating teller transactions to self-service. We're very excited to have some of our friends from Hawaii State Credit Union join us today, and we'll introduce them in just a minute. As we go throughout this webinar today, everyone is muted, just so that we can eliminate any background noises and distractions, but would love to hear from you. And so feel free to enter any of your questions into the chat box, or if you click the raise hand icon, we're able to unmute you and you're welcome to ask any questions of us or Ish and Aaron from Hawaii State Credit Union. We're also going to try to have a little bit of fun. We know that these webinars, we spend a lot of time on video these days, and we want to make this engaging. And so throughout the presentation today, we've got a couple trivia questions, and whoever enters the answer first into the chat box will win a $100 Amex gift card. And so we've got a couple questions throughout the presentation. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun today as well. As I mentioned, the name of our company is Next Branch. And Next Branch might be a newer name to some of you, but it's actually part of a larger family-owned company named Grant Victor. We're headquartered here in Kaysville, Utah, a thriving metropolis about 30 minutes north of Salt Lake. But underneath that Grant Victor umbrella, we have 4 different companies. And I just want to give a short introduction to each of those. Next Branch is a company that provides complete outsourcing solutions for ATMs, ITMs, and TCRs with financial institutions. And so that's who we represent today. TetraLink is a master distributor of Hyosung financial ATMs, ITMs, and TCRs, and is the largest distributor of Hyosung equipment in the country. On the retail side of our business, we have eGlobal ATM Services, which is an owner-operator of retail ATMs in convenience stores, in hotels, and many other retail establishments. All in all, we own thousands of retail ATMs in North America, and we're one of North America's largest ATM deployers. And then our final company is Next ATM, which is, I like to describe it as the Amazon.com of the ATM industry, place where you can go, an ATM operator can go to get parts, supplies, signage, anything related to running an ATM business. So as you can see, we live and breathe ATMs and ITMs and anything related to self-service banking. Our mantra at our company is, we're big enough to matter, but small enough to care. You know, in the financial industry, there are huge companies that often lose that personal touch with their customers. We definitely are a sizable company. You know, like I said, we're big enough to matter, but we are still very small. We operate over 7,000 ATMs across the country. We're the largest distributor of Hyosung financial equipment in the US. We're the largest distributor of retail ATMs in North America, as you look at that Next ATM company of ours. In fact, you know, 1 in every 4 ATMs sold in the US on the retail side come through our company. We've been listed among the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies, and have also received some awards locally here in Utah among the best companies to work for. So don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but just wanted to give you just a little snapshot of who we are. The solutions we provide through Next Branch are ATM and ITM portfolio outsourcing, or as we call it, ATMs as a service. We offer core integrated ATMs and ITMs. We offer cash recycling ATMs, teller cash recyclers, video banking solutions, and just overall ATM operations. I joined the company about 10 years ago officially full-time. But before that, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I worked with my brothers who started the company, and I was one of their cash loaders. And so while I was in college, I carried a backpack around, with $60,000 many times in $20 bills, and would go around and fill their ATM machines in the different retail locations. So I've carried the bag, I guess you could say, in the ATM business, and have really grown to love this industry. We've seen a lot of changes, as you can imagine, in the 20 years we've been in business, and are excited for the new technologies that have come to play. So our topic today is, how do we navigate some of these challenges with staffing today? It's a historic time. And as you look at our historic unemployment rates, you can see over the last 20 years or so, some pretty big changes. It's so intriguing looking at that big spike there during COVID, where we went from, the lowest unemployment rate we've seen in a long time to all of a sudden jumping up to a 15% unemployment rate in very little time due to COVID shutdowns. Now, that came back quickly, as you can see in that graph. In fact, today, the unemployment rate nationally is only 3.6%, and that is tied for the lowest in 20 years. Here locally in Utah, we are dealing with under 2% unemployment rate. And so we find ourselves always trying to hire people, and it's challenging. And often as we talk to credit unions and banks, this is one of their biggest challenges today is keeping people in place, keeping people happy, and finding new people when you lose them. We're also hearing about this idea of this great resignation, where where people are voluntarily resigning from their positions. There's more options than ever for them, and they're finding a lot of flexibility with new remote options and higher pay. Those types of positions that require in-office work are the most challenging to fill. And 63% of resignations we're seeing are due to people going after more pay because there's such high demand these days. Tech companies are offering higher pay and more flexibility, which is tough. And even in cases of fast food restaurants, we're seeing $15 per hour or even more, in some cases $20 per hour that are available to them. So this series of webinars that we're doing offers 5 solutions. And about a month ago, we did our first webinar that did a high-level overview of these 5 solutions. And now what we're doing is holding an individual webinar that dives deeply into each one. And so today's, as I mentioned, is migrating teller transactions to self-service. On our website, nextbranch.com, you can click on the resources tab and view our past recording that we did of our webinar about a month ago. And today's webinar will also be recorded and posted on here. And our following webinars that are coming here soon will be available to register and later view the recording of online here as well. So this is a great new resource that we just added. So feel free to share today's webinar with those within your organization that weren't able to join as well. So our topic today is really going to be geared around migrating teller transactions to self-service, and really focused around core integration with ATMs and ITMs. As we look at self-service trends, in particular in retail, 88% of US customers expect organizations to offer a self-service option. And that was from a Harvard Business Review. 60% of consumers would choose self-checkout versus cashier. And we're seeing that every day, aren't we, today in stores where they're changing their traditional cashier lines to self-checkout so that they can tailor to those consumers. Consumers are so used to self-service. As we look at airports, grocery stores, convenience stores, big box stores, everywhere is going to self-checkout. We have a large convenience store chain here in Utah that just added a self-checkout option. to their customers. Often we see that lines are actually longer for self-checkout kiosks versus the traditional cashiers. I noticed that at a local grocery store where I use the self-checkout a lot. Often there's a longer line there versus the cashiers. The challenge is your members and customers are looking for that same self-service experience in banking, and it just hasn't been available. Legacy ATM implementations have just struggled to keep up with those consumer demands. And it's really because of the technology was just not available. So consumers today expect the following. They expect to get access to all of their accounts via self-service. They want to provide immediate funds availability rather than having hold on those funds. They want to be able to accomplish complex banking tasks on their own without the help of someone. And they want to have that same experience across all their different channels. So whether it's your website, your app, the ATM, they want to have the same opportunity and same experience across all channels. And so that's exactly what core integration offers with ITMs. Now that member or customer has access to all of their accounts, same access to funds as at the teller line. They're able to accomplish much more complex transactions. They have a much deeper level of knowledge about the consumer, and it's consistent, or it's that omni-channel experience where that same opportunity is across all your channels. So as we look at the benefits of core integration, and you will hear this from our friends at Hawaii State today as they've fully implemented this technology. These are the types of benefits that you're able to achieve. Number one is expanded self-service. So the goal here is to migrate approximately 90% of teller transactions to self-service. And that can definitely lower the demand on your staff by doing so. Extended hours. With core integration, boy, those machines can be available 24 hours a day, that full access to accounts without any added staff. Also add the ability to do multilingual service as well. Staffing focus, rather than your traditional tellers being money counters, which is, by and large, most of what they do today, they're able to focus on the more higher value functions and customer building relationships. Or in those cases where it makes sense, staffing requirements can be reduced at those branches as well. Last would be just reduce branch footprint. Utilizing this technology and migrating to self-service allows you to build a much smaller branch than you would traditionally be able to do. So trivia time. We're going to ask a quick trivia question. Again, you'll want to post the answer in the chat box, and you will receive a $100 Amex gift card if you're the first person to respond. So here we go. What percentage of consumers expect organizations to offer a self-service option? That was on one of those slides that I shared from the Harvard Business Review. We're getting a lot of answers coming through. I haven't seen the exact answer yet. Oh, we got it actually. So the answer is 88%, and Kelsey Fandry was the first person to answer with that number. There were several close. We see some 85s, we see some 90% in there. So thank you for your responses. And Kelsey, we will get that gift card sent to you. We'll reach out and email you and get your address. So thanks for your participation. All right, well, we are very excited to have our guest join us today from Hawaii State Credit Union. I first started working with them about 3 years ago when they were looking at doing a new branch, and you can see the picture of it here, the Salt Lake branch. Now, this is not Salt Lake City, Utah. This is an area of Hawaii called Salt Lake, and they were building this new branch. They were looking at different options for ITMs, and we had the privilege of getting to know them and being their provider for their equipment. We've enjoyed working with them so much, and Ish and Aaron, feel free to turn on your video there. We're excited to have you. Aaron is the SVP of Retail Experience and Operations. Ish is the SVP of Retail Banking Division for Hawaii State. And so with that introduction, I'll turn the time over to you, Aaron and Ish, and they're going to share their journey and their experience with ITMs as well as their new branch strategies. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Spencer. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Aloha from Hawaii. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to attend this. Please indulge Ish and I as we share our credit union's really branch evolution process. And so for those that have attended future branches in late last year, was December of 2021, we did a similar presentation at future branches, but we did modify it because we did have some major breakthroughs within the beginning part of this year, and we'll share that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to really start sharing what our strategic plan and vision was as we went through our branch strategy, what some of our growth and challenges are. So I'm guessing it's very similar to a lot of us that are on this call here. And the last piece is, what did we do really to dream and deliver that vision to our members? Spencer, thank you so much for the introduction. So I'm Aaron. As Spencer mentioned, I oversee our Retail Experience Division and Operations. And Ish?
Aloha, everyone. I'm Ish Eustachio. I oversee our retail division. This encompasses our branches, our call center, our mortgage sales team, as well as our investment group.
So Hawaii State, just a little background on our organization. So like many of the other credit unions on this call, we were founded in 1936. We're 2.3 billion in assets, a little over 123,000 members. When we first put this slide deck together back in 2021, we had 11 branches and we were going to grow to 16 by the end of this year. We opened up 2 of our branches at the beginning of this year, and we hope to finish the remaining 3 before end of quarter 3. So let's dig down a little bit into the strategy. And so this is really where we started with our organization, is what was our strategy for growth and what was our strategy for convenience. And so we did an offsite planning session where we had long in-depth conversations about this. And the one conclusion that we came back with is branches are still crucial for us for growth here in Hawaii. We are not over branched, and so there was a lot of opportunity for us to go into communities where we have a high concentration of members and we have underdeveloped business in those communities. The second piece that was really important is we do believe that convenience is measured in the number of touch points that we have with our members. So we have, of course, online banking, we have call centers, but we also felt that the physical branches were important for those touch points that we have with our member engagement. Something that I want to point out, which was really important to the success in this process, is we did go through an organization realignment. And one of the things, and we have to thank our president and CEO and the execs on this, is we did move operations to retail. And so we did align the 2 groups, allowing for better synergy, better alignment of resources, but more importantly, to ensure that we're moving in the same direction. And so that way, the branches as well as the operations are aligned. And so we can move a lot quicker in terms of how we want to deploy new technology and new processes. That by far was probably the biggest change that had the most significant impact in our overall success.
Aloha, everybody. So as Aaron shared, our credit union had a growth plan, and had a growth plan by building more branches. There is, like everybody, there are certain challenges in our markets, and everybody has their own unique challenges. But Hawaii has several unique challenges. If anybody's been to Hawaii, everybody will agree that Hawaii is a beautiful place, but it is expensive. So imagine doing business in Hawaii and the expense that you have to work around with in order to have a viable business. So with the branches, one big part is really cost per square feet, and which is at the top of the nation. And that cost per square feet caused developers to rethink their retail inventory. So that retail inventory, those stores have shrunk significantly from the past. It's difficult to find a 3,000 square foot retail space. Everything is built now under 2,000 square feet. That's what the retailers can afford, and that is the business model here in Hawaii. So we had to transform our branches into smaller footprint. So the challenge was, okay, so now that we have to go into a smaller footprint, how do we transform the branch and keep to our heritage? Here's the challenge that we also face here in Hawaii is that unlike our counterparts on the mainland, transactions did not fall significantly pre-COVID. Now, even during COVID, for a short span of time during COVID, transactions did fall, but had actually went back up to where we are over 80% of our pre-pandemic transaction counts. So transactions are still a integral part of how we serve our members. So we needed to be able to handle transactions in these small footprint branches. The other challenge that we faced in growing our business in these smaller branches was that here in Hawaii, collected balance is a different culture here, meaning that a lot of times when a member or customer comes into, whether it be our credit union or the banks here locally, a lot of times they get surprised when they have to have their checks be put on hold. And that's because for generations, checks weren't put on hold and people were given immediate access to these funds. So a big part of the reason why that happens here in Hawaii is really because of the cost of living here in Hawaii. Over 40% of our population base live paycheck to paycheck. So they need immediate credit. So we wanted to make sure that when we build these branches, that we had that flexibility to work with our members to give them immediate credit. The other part is, there was some cultural risk when we were looking at building these branches. We wanted to make sure our community, our members are so used to banking with somebody. It's not necessarily where you bank, it's who you bank with. Although Hawaii is Honolulu itself is a large community, large city, it really is still a small town, and who you bank with is important. So we really wanted to make sure that as we built our branches, our members had access to the people that they've engaged with and developed relationships with. So those were the challenges we faced. Aaron, can you go to the next slide? So one of the first things we needed to do as an organization is that from our executive team all the way down to the branch team, we had to be committed to a small branch network. That was the challenge that we faced. And internally, we all agreed that we would develop that together. So in order to do that, we had to really start from scratch and design that experience in a small branch atmosphere. What we asked our up and coming leaders like Aaron, that was the next generation of executive leadership, to really design that experience. And so we put together a group of young leaders. And these were not the senior leaders that had autonomy and empowerment to design this branch. So with that, they had to pick the right technology. And what I mean by the right technology is that we really needed this flexibility of this technology that will provide the right pieces so that we could really function in that environment of the situation with the collected balances and being able to give people the access to their money. So we did go through an RFI. We went through extensive interviews with all the vendors, and we selected Hyosung. The other thing is we have to have the right partners. And what I mean by partners is that it wasn't that we didn't want to be treated like just a customer. We didn't want to be told what to do. We really wanted to partner with our solution providers and understand our journey and understand our goal and really work together to really customize the experience for our members. So having the right partners was a very important piece to our success. And like I said earlier, we really gave the design team the power to really move forward and design that experience. From there, this design team built and delivered and led that experience. Aaron, can you go to the next slide? So what was important in this design team is that they really had to hone down into the focus. Excuse me. This really meant for us to really transform our branches versus just renovation. And in order to do that, we needed 4 integral pieces. As I said, we needed to design the branch. We had to have the right technology. We had to have the right back office process and in-branch process. Just as importantly, we needed the right people. So the difference between transformation and renovation, I think, is felt throughout our whole industry. A lot of financial institutions have gone through renovating their branches and calling it transformation, just to find out that although the branch is beautiful, the tellers or the universal bankers, the new accounts people, and the managers and the leaders are doing the same things that they did prior to the renovation. We really wanted a transformation. We really wanted the experience to be different for our member, but the same in a sense of engagement. We really wanted our people to feel very comfortable and believe and be there with our members, delivering our services and walking them through our technology. And then we also wanted the full support of the organization. So for Hawaii State, this was important. We went through quite a bit of centralization. We went up through quite a bit of redesigning our training. And Aaron will go more into detail how we connected our people with the technology and how the design helped and how the process supported it. Aaron?
I did want to point out one thing. It's really good to have partners like Next Branch. I kind of laughed when I saw this photo. You can see that we're all wearing masks, but this was in the middle of the pandemic, and we did go out with Next Branch to Hyosung's Corporate Americas office to really talk about strategy and how the ITMs were going to be leveraged in our new spaces. So I thought that was funny when I saw this photo, that we all have masks on in the middle of the pandemic, visiting Hyosung's corporate office. So, as we talked about, we had a lot of challenges moving into kind of this new design and evolution of our branches. And similar to many of you on the call, we have traditional branches. And the traditional branches have operated well for 80 plus years for us. But there are some things that we had to look at and how we were going to be successful in much smaller spaces. I think the first one is we have a very siloed branch operations in our traditional branches. We have people who are tellers who are very operational driven, and then we have the platform staff members who are really focused in on bringing in deals. And there really wasn't a lot of connection between the two groups. As Ish mentioned, we had to re-look at our processes. One of them was loan processing. Previously, we had decentralized lending. So we had branch lenders in every office that approved all of our loans. And when I first started, we even did mortgages in branches. They were the loan officers. Looking at, I think one of the biggest things for us is we had very successful growth prior to the pandemic for 8 straight years. And when I say successful growth, I mean we were leading our industry in Hawaii by leaps and bounds compared to our other credit union members, other institutions. And so it was challenging for us to go from having strong growth into moving into new spaces, and how are we going to be measured in terms of comparing what we did with traditional branches to what we're going to be doing in much smaller spaces. And those were the challenges. When we looked at the design, and we're going to cover this in the future slides, but we really looked at how we were going to leverage technology and the engagement with our members and our employees. How are we going to choreograph those interactions in small spaces? By far, the biggest thing that we had to be mindful of was really the engagement and the member satisfaction. At Hawaii State, our biggest 2 goals has to do with service. The first one has to do with our service experience, and the second one is Net Promoter Score. And so we had to make sure that those 2 key metrics for us were held to the same high level standards that we did at our traditional locations. So let's get into the Hillsong ITMs. As Spencer mentioned in a previous slide, it handles 90% of what I would consider to be teller transactions. At Hawaii State, in our new transformed branches, how we position this to members is that it handles all of their basic banking transactions. And that's really important in, as Ish mentioned, the training. We spent a lot of time re-looking at the training that we provide to our staff members. The first thing that we did was we actually had each staff member in these branches certified digitally. And that was a custom training program that we created at our organization. In terms of how do we position technology, are we doing an assumptive close? So rather than asking someone if they want to use the machine, we're letting them know, I can service you here. And the other piece is integrating our mobile application into really daily transactions. So I'll give you an example. Previously, when a member would come into our branch to do an address change, our staff members were fantastic at it. They would go to the system, they would program the address change form in, and the member would sign electronically. We flipped that to ask members now when they come in, do you have your mobile phone with you? Or do you have our mobile app? And we're showing members how to do those basic transactions on their phone. So we're really educating and teaching them to use the technology that's available to them today. Just getting into a little bit about what the Hillsong ITMs do. So they are core integrated. So we're a Fiserv DNA customer. It is core integrated, which means that there is no double key process. We don't have an operator on the other end that's taking the transaction and entering that into our core system. Our members have access to all of their accounts, and they can do all of the basic transactions that you would do at a teller: deposits, withdrawals, transfers, loan and credit card payments, check cashing. And an interesting feature with the Hillsong ITMs is they're able to process third-party deposits. And those would be if someone came in to make a deposit to your account, they're not an owner. As long as they have your account number and your last name, they can make a deposit to your account. One of the things that I want to point out in terms of Hawaii State's implementation of the ITMs is while video is a feature available in the Hyosung ITMs, we opted not to use video, and I explain why. So we'll take a look at, I think one of the big pieces for us for the launching of the ITMs was really the KPIs. We had to make sure that we had specific measurable milestones to ensure that the ITMs were successful and the new branches that we're launching were successful. The one that we're probably the most proud of has to do with adoption and satisfaction rates. As I mentioned earlier, member service is our biggest key driver for our organization. And so we do extensive surveys with our members. So we contract through a third party. We do close to 15,000 surveys with our members every year. And when we launched the ITM at our first branch at Salt Lake, we made sure that we had a survey to ask about their experience with the ITMs. The one key takeaway that we got from those surveys is members liked the technology, and it spanned all generational segments. It didn't matter if they were a Gen Zer, a millennial, if they were a traditionalist, we saw the adoption across all generational segments, with right about 4% of the members who said that they were not going to use the machine again. So we had a 96% rate of members that use the machine that said that they would use the machine in the future. Something to point out here that was really important is we used this data to really work with our staff members. One of the challenges that we had when we implemented this is a lot of times our employees come in with preconceived ideas and notions of who will use this type of technology. And so they would judge a book by its cover. And when we did these surveys, that was a real eye-opening moment for our staff members to see that it didn't matter what age or what generational group the member belonged to. The software was intuitive enough, and we had staff members that were stationed next to the ITMs to walk members through these transactions. The second piece that we are very proud of is the satisfaction rate for our members who use the ITMs in our branches rose to 95%. We already had high satisfaction rates. Our branches average 92% every year in terms of member satisfaction rate. So we were very pleased to see that increased. And when we went through the member comments, what we found to be really that secret sauce or that magic was the blending of the technology as well as that staff engagement. Most of the surveys that came back had that they liked the technology, but more importantly, they appreciated having someone to walk them through the process. And so those are the really key metrics that we're most proud of. For these branches, of course, if you have a boss like ours, the financials is very important. And so these branches, I can tell you that in the first year, it blew past all of our expectations in terms of our performa in deposits, loan growth, membership growth, as well as our member experience. Through this process, there were a lot of discoveries for us. And the biggest takeaway for us was branches were still a driver. As Ish mentioned, during the pandemic, and we're still in the pandemic, but our members are returning to our branches. We're at 80% of the transaction volume that we had pre-pandemic. We're not over-branched, and so we do know that there's a lot of opportunity for our credit union in Hawaii. And appointments grew in importance during the pandemic. It was surprising that during the pandemic, we had over 40,000 members that made an appointment each year. And so those were 40,000 confirmed appointments that we launched during this process, and they could do either in person, over the telephone, as well as virtual. So we could do WebEx appointments for our members. But it was good to see that we still had a huge demand for in-person interactions. To have over 40,000 unique members come into our branches during the pandemic, and this was during the peak, really set a big message and tone to our organizations that our members wanted to have that personal touch and experience, even during a time where people were retreating from those engagements. And the last thing was technology. So Ish mentioned partnership a lot, and partnership really matters. I will tell you that working with Next Branch as well as Hyosung directly, we did a lot to go through what that member experience is going to be like. We spent a lot of time really making adjustments to the workflows with the ITMs. And that is another part of the success for the adoption, is that we really looked at it from our members' perspective. And we did a lot of custom work to make sure that it fit Hawaii State's needs. So what was in store? We talked about moving into a smaller footprint. And the direction that we went into in-store branches. And we call them micro branches because our smallest one is 281 square feet. So a lot of you on this call have closets that are larger than that. But that was really the direction we're heading in. One of the pieces that we looked at is we could not move into that 280 square foot footprint without the right technology. And so the ITM was at the center of those engagements and those interactions. You'll see it in the design in our future slides that we really made the ITMs the core of our micro branches. The other pieces when looking at us being successful in these small spaces is that we had to be wireless. We couldn't have a traditional, new account platform desk. We couldn't have traditional teller stands. We couldn't have really the printers and the clutter that paper brings in these extremely small spaces. And the last thing that, although it's not yet here, but we are working on it, will be one of the first in the nation to launch pre-stage transactions with Hyosung as well as our digital banking partner. And what that ultimately will do is will allow our members to queue up their transactions on their mobile device. When they get to an ITM, they'll be able to NFC and authenticate in and pick up their pre-stage transactions or the transactions that are in queue. So it's really that blending of the technology that members have with our branch process is the direction that our organization is heading in. We don't see them as competing factors. We see them as complementary. And so we wanted to make sure that the mobile devices that our members have can be integrated into our physical spaces. So these are the renderings of 3 out of the 4 Safeway / micro branches that we opened. I mentioned that our smallest has a square foot of 281 square feet. That's our branch in the top left-hand corner. That's in Safeway Kapahulu. And for those that have been to Oahu, it's about a 3-minute drive right outside of Waikiki. And so this would be the supermarket that if you were staying in Waikiki that you would visit if you were looking for a grocery store. In this branch, we did opt to use the 8800 models, which is their full service models. But the thing that we're most proud of is we did fit into this small space a closing room. And the employees that belong in these branches belong to Ish, and Ish calls it the closing room because it's a place where we wanted to have members feel safe and really to be able to open up to us to do large deals or to have those in-depth conversations with us. And so it was good to have a private space in our in-store branch for our members. The other 2 branches, the one on the top right, we're going to be opening up this week. Friday will be our official launch, and that's on the island of Maui. So that's in Kihei. And the one at the bottom is our Safeway Hawaii Kai branch. There, the 2 branches, Kihei on Maui as well as Hawaii Kai, they're right under 500 square feet. It looks much larger, but we did a lot in that small space. Now, the funny thing about these renderings is when we presented this to our board of directors in terms of the direction we were heading in, the first question we got from one of our board of directors was, these are pretty renderings. What will the final product look like? Will it look exactly like this? And at our grand opening for our Hawaii Kai branch, I saw the board member and I asked him, what do you think? Do you think it looks like the picture that you saw? And I will tell you, I wish we had better photos. These were taken by our employees. The professional photographer that we hired for the openings didn't take the panel shots that I wanted. But these are the 3 branches. This is our top left is our Kapahulu, which is right outside of Waikiki. The top right is our Kihei branch, and the one on the bottom is our Hawaii Kai branch on the island of Oahu. These are all incredible spaces, all under 500 square feet. But I think the biggest thing for us to take away is that there are lots of engagement areas and a lot of private spaces for our members to have those one-on-one connections and conversations. So what's on the horizon for us? Spencer mentioned the ability of these ITMs to stay on in extended hours. And we are working with Hyosung as well as our core vendor to move into what I call ITM kiosk mode. This is a custom scoring model that will custom score each member of ours for check deposits as well as withdrawal limits. So that way these machines can operate 24 hours a day in our Safeway branches without any staff intervention. So the core connected ITMs will be available to our members 24 hours a day. This has a lot of great opportunities for our organization. We see putting these machines in large segs, large business partners, as well as areas of our market where maybe it doesn't command or demand a physical branch footprint, but to have really an ITM kiosk in there would be fantastic. We are going to be bringing up our headquarters branch that's coming up at the end of this year. We are looking at new locations. We hope to open up our newest news locations. I think we have 3 more to bring up before the end of the year. And the last piece is this has been a successful endeavor for us. And so we'd like to take the time to really look at our existing branch footprints to transform those spaces. Ish, anything you think that I missed in this process?
Well, I wanted to talk about partnership. We've had a lot of great partners to help us be successful. Element is a company we worked with to help us design these branches. But one of the things that happened in this journey is that we went up to New Hampshire to meet with Element to do a workshop. And when we're looking at technologies, we asked 4 companies to present. And I will tell you, Hyosung and Next Branch actually flew up somebody from all the way from Texas to New Hampshire to meet with us for an hour. And, that was a game changer, where others would just teleconference in, WebEx in. They were willing to send somebody over there to meet with us. And, we're a small organization compared to other financial institutions, but they're willing to do that. So that was a really eye-opener for us, that they were really, truly willing to partner. The other thing I would say is that, we don't do this justice on a WebEx. Come to Hawaii and visit Aaron and I. We'll show you our branches. We'll show you the technology. Heck, even have a Mai Tai or 2 with you guys. But those pictures are, that's my dog and I on the paddleboard. But yeah.
Shameless.
Ish, I think everyone on this webinar today is trying to come up with a business reason to make a quick trip over to Hawaii. And this is a good reason. If you ever get the opportunity, it is fascinating to go by some of their latest branches. I'll never forget going by the Salt Lake branch and the Eva Beach branch when you first opened that. And it really is a great experience if you ever get the opportunity. Well, Aaron and Ish, we appreciate it. It's a great story, and thanks for sharing your journey. We do have some questions that have come through. in the chat window that we just want to answer here. And again, if any of you want to speak, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can talk as well. So let's just look at the chat window real quick. We had someone ask, what cores are these compatible with? So what cores does Hyosun offer core integration with? And I just quickly got a list here that I'll share with you. So today, CMC Flex, we've got COCC, we've got Correlation, CSI NewPoint, CU Answers, and then on the FIS side, we've got IBS and Miser. And the Fiserv cores that are currently integrated are Portico, XP2, DNA, that was one of the questions someone asked as well, is what core are you guys on? And you're on Fiserv DNA, Fiserv Spectrum as well. And then through Jack Henry, there's Silver Lake, CIF 2020, Core Director, and Epicus. Now there are cores being added quite regularly. And so if yours is not on that list, feel free to reach out to us and we can give you an idea of where it currently sits with Hyosun. Let's see, another question. Someone did ask if it's compatible with Fiserv Premier. So currently not an integration option, but that is one of the priorities with Hyosun that they're actively working on closely with Fiserv. So what question is does Hawaii State use the ITMs inside the branch and in the drive-through? And Mac Erickson from Element, our friends at Element, answered that
Mac.
question.
Oh, Mac, hey, Mac.
The geography, well, why don't you guys answer that question? Do you have any at the drive-through?
So I will tell you that a drive-through would be a huge luxury for us in Hawaii. As Ish mentioned earlier, the cost of real estate almost makes that cost prohibitive for us to have drive-throughs. And so they are featured in our branches. Hopefully soon they'll be in shopping centers as in-branch kiosks in kiosk mode.
Perfect. And you do have a couple exterior walk-up through the wall units, if I remember right. Is that right, Aaron?
We will have the first exterior ITM will be featured at our new headquarters, and that'll come up for the end of the year.
Perfect. Yep. We sell a lot of drive-through units. And so we, all of these applications are available through drive-throughs as well. Let's see. Why did you hold off on video assisted service, and do you have plans of implementing it at a later date?
So,
and maybe it might be helpful, you guys, to share what type of assisted service you're doing today with the tablets in your branches.
So both Aaron and I can answer this question. We did hold off on video. What our experience is that, here in Hawaii, traffic is bad. And, the way I describe it, people don't drive 20 minutes to talk to a machine. We really wanted to focus on the engagement with the branch team, with the member. So rather than leverage video, our branch team is right there to assist the member. So we do not have plans on video in the future. That may change, but right now, it all points out that, if we want to talk to somebody via video, we're going to be leveraging, the mobile to do that. And, so again, it was a choice we made, and we believe that people really want to engage with people when they need to and leverage the machine as a great tool.
So yeah, so it's just correct. I mean, while our branches are open, we want our members to engage with our staff members that are located in the branch. And one thing I will point out, the software for the Hyosun ITMs has been very flexible. And so we are looking at, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at a custom job that will allow us to provide after-hours support without the need of a live body to manage it. And so we're excited to launch that this year, but that will be when we're closed and we don't have a physical staff member present. Those machines can operate on their own using some basic logic.
And the reason for that is
Correct.
that we, unlike other financial institutions that have the ITMs, we're not leveraging the ATM rail. We're solely using core connection. And that's why the after-hour design is going to be different.
Perfect, guys. One thing I'll add is, Hyosung obviously has a video solution. Now, what I'll say is with core integration, the use of video goes down drastically. Many of those that have deployed ITMs with other manufacturers, they're very video heavy, right? It's using a lot of video, it's using a lot of dual entry. The Hyosung model is very much self-service first, and then assistance as needed. And so generally, we see numbers like those ITMs that are core integrated, 97% of the transactions are done self-service, 3% require extra approval, right? So it might be that a withdrawal over a certain dollar amount or a deposit over a certain dollar amount requires a remote teller to authorize that transaction. Or maybe the customer or member forgot their debit card and they need to authenticate on the machine. They could click on a help button, which would connect to a video agent who could let them into that machine. So it's really used for just those situations where you would want that teller to be involved. I guess the other option would be is if the person using that machine, if they wanted assistance, if they were struggling with the technology, they could click that help button and a teller could actually complete that transaction for them. Okay, let's see what else we got here. We got a lot of questions coming in, which is great. How are commercial deposits handled in this model?
So commercial members are able to authenticate via one of two ways. We do offer biometric technology. So those would be the owners, the members for the LLC. So really the signers for the accounts. They have access to all of their commercial deposits. So that is available to them currently. So it's
Perfect.
a part of the setup that you have with your core to allow organization types to access the ITM.
Perfect. All right, let's see. What was the impact to your branch staff that handled the transactions now handled by ITMs? And so maybe take a minute, just talk about how deploying this technology has changed your staffing model a little bit in these new branches.
So great question. Actually, when we first designed our new branches, we did not adjust our staffing model. And the reason why is that we believe that we could really repurpose their focus instead of focusing on transactions and balancing. We really felt that that staff could be spent more being proactive and engaging with our members inside the branch, and just by keeping in touch through the phone and other sources. So we didn't adjust, but I will tell you that, and everybody experienced this and still are experiencing this with COVID, is that we've had situations where people were exposed or actually got COVID, and we had to make a choice whether to close a branch or not. But we were able to keep our branches open because of the ITMs. We've run branches for extended period of time that normally has a staff of 7 with 3 people, and was very efficient and still was very effective. No service decline, and sales still was robust. So and we attribute that to our members knowing how to leverage the machines and our staff knowing how to leverage the ITM machines. So really, the ITMs have become part of the staff more than just technology.
It's a good way to put it, for sure. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have come up against the end. Let me just share a couple slides here real quick. And great questions, everyone. We appreciate the questions and the answers as well from Ish and Aaron. So trivia time. Here we go for another $100 Amex gift card. What member satisfaction rate percentage is Hawaii State achieving on their ITMs? Debbie was quick. Debbie was the first to answer, and the answer is 95%. And I thought what was really impressive, I think it was you, Aaron, that shared this, is it really spanned all the different demographics, right? All different age groups, all generations, which is pretty incredible. That's a big worry for lots of people that are thinking about deploying this technology.
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned, this is solution one of the 5 where we talk about solutions for today's staffing challenges. In about a month, we're going to have another webinar that will be on our outsourcing program, or what we call ITMs as a service. There were some questions about video, and so we're actually going to have a segment that is on video solutions that will cover number 3 and number 4 here: centralized teller assistants and also centralized specialists using some of the video solutions on the market. And then we'll end the series with a look at some of the latest technologies with TCRs and how that can impact branch staffing models. So join us. Our next one will be held July 12th. We'll send out email invitations to everyone. And we'll also have one of our outsourcing customers share their experience, kind of like Hawaii State did today, about ITMs. There are some highlights of our ITMs as a service solution. And I'll be quick on this, but this is a way to free up staff that is currently handling your ATM and ITM program today to focus on higher value functions. Allows you to eliminate the operational challenges of managing an ATM and ITM program, where we handle all of that. We own and operate the equipment, we handle all the service, and through this solution, it allows you to incorporate the latest technology without any upfront capital. And also, there's no more surprises. So there's no costly upgrades for the next version of Windows or PCI compliance. There's no out of scope charges. And also it protects against things like vandalism, which has been a pretty big problem over the last year or so. So join us for that next webinar. And thank you again for joining today. I'm sure there's more questions you have, so feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. You can reach us at sales@nextbranch.com or visit our website, and feel free to call us on our toll-free number there. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure to have everyone on today, and have a wonderful day.
Aloha.
Thank you, Aaron and Ish. We'll see ya.